guys, thank you for joining me again today. As always, I'm Hunter Wilkins and this is Father and Forge, and we've got a cool project today. We're going to be making a chef's knife. So I haven't done one before. I know basically how to do it, and I'm going to meddle my way through it, and hopefully it turns out decent. So for this project, before that, let's go back to the last project real quick. So this is the last project. I think it turned out really cool. These scales are just sick, and those are from Exotic Blanks. You can find him on Instagram. Really cool stuff. I've got another set coming from him for another chef's knife I'm going to do. This particular chef's knife is going to be a hidden tang, and we're going to use this block from JDM scales. Look at that, that's pretty, isn't it? I'm going to actually leave that rough burl texture. I'm going to basically split this like this, and hopefully get two knife handles out of it. Now the other two scales I've got coming from Exotic Blanks for the next chef knife, those will be for a full tang version. So it'll be a little bit different of a process, but ultimately it's all just forging, right? So anyway, again, beautiful block from JDM scales. So that's going to be our handle. Our knife material today is going to be some 1095. These are knife blanks. You can pick them up on Amazon. I've been doing that lately just because I don't have a supplier in the area, although I do know of one out of state that is supposed to be really, really good. So I'm probably going to go that route from now on, but for the time being, given the quarantine and all that good stuff, I've got a few blocks of these. This will work fine for what I'm doing. So without further ado, let me fire up the forge and let's get started making this super cool chef's knife. So while that heats up for a minute, I'm going to talk about how I'm going to execute. So I've just got these two knives from the kitchen, just as kind of a reference. So this one has a more of a sloping point that goes down. I kind of like that. This is kind of a more traditional shape. These are both really, really bad knives too. They're not very good. They're sharp right now, but they don't hold an edge at all. So this 1095 steel, when properly heat treated, will hold an edge, no problem, last for months and months and months in the kitchen. So it'll be a good thing. So I'm gonna take that square bar and I'm gonna hammer out a triangle tip. Basically, I'm gonna kind of roughly estimate where I want to start my tang, and then I'm gonna isolate that, bring that down. It's gonna come pretty narrow. It's gonna be kind of like that to go down inside of the block that I showed you. So that's kind of the plan. I'm going to use these two as reference points as throughout the process, so you might see me grab them. This is a good example of full tang. See the pins, and then you've got this guy, which is actually a hidden tang. No pins or anything. It's just got a small section that goes in here and is glued in. But this knife is going to be way better than both of these could ever hope to be. So alright, so you can see I'm really trying to keep it straight as I go along. What I'm going to do now, I've marked it out. Those other two knives, and I know I hate the imperial measurement system, but they're 8 inches. My metal ruler is only an imperial. So they're 8-inch blades. I'm going to mark this one at like 8.5. and start the tang. And I'm thinking that by me hammering it out with the round side of the hammer and fleshing it all out, it's going to actually extend that length quite a bit. By how much, I don't know. I'm not experienced enough to be able to just come up with that number off the top of my head, but I'm going to mark it. We're going to start drawing where the tang's going to be, and then we're going to just start fleshing the whole thing out, thinning it down, stretching it out. So yeah, there we go. Alright, that's the hard part. So now we're just gonna flesh this thing out. Alright, so now I've got my basic form lined out. I'm gonna flatten it all out, reduce a couple little areas, get it all nice and even, and then we're gonna start grinding. Okay, so this is where we're at right now. Looking pretty good. It's bigger than both of those knives that I was using as reference. It is still a little thick. It's a little thicker than I normally would leave a knife, but I'm trying to save a lot of room for grinding because I want to really grind the hell out of this thing. So my tang's definitely long enough. It's probably too long. I might have to cut that down a little bit too, but it's just ooh, I think I'm gonna like it a lot. Alright, so just put a fresh 80 grit belt on my little 1x30 because that's what I got right now. I've been using Red Label abrasives. They seem to be really good, really inexpensive, and they do the job well. So I'm not trying to plug brands here, but that's just to give you an idea of what I am using. Before I do that, before I jump on the grinder, I'm going to knock the scale off with my my little angle grinder. I'm not going to record that. I'm just going to do that real quick. I'll show you, and then we'll jump on the grinder and just start grinding through this thing. Alright, so it doesn't look much different, but you can see now that without the scale all over it, I think it looks pretty cool. Alright, so we're off to the races. We're going to go ahead and start grinding on this thing. It's coming along. I'm gonna make this one shiny. I'm really liking how it looks right now with the forged finish on it, but I don't do a lot of like actual high polish finishes, and I really wanted to do that on this. So I think I'm gonna keep grinding, and we're gonna make this thing shiny. Alright, so that's heating back up so I can get it ready for heat treat. I've got to thermocycle it a few times, so what I do is I heat it up, and I usually bring it in here, so it's a little bit lower light. I can actually see the temperature and see where I'm at, because I want to go from an orange to black basically at least like 3 or 4 times before I quench it. So that gives the steel a chance to kind of normalize and get all the atoms nice and lined up, ready to fix in place when I actually do quench it. Alright, so you can see way better in here. When I'm out in the by the anvil and everything, you really can't see these colors at all, but you can see this really well in here. So a lot of times it looks like I'm hammering on cold steel. I'm really not, but it takes me, I have to be careful, you know, make sure that I'm not hammering on cold steel. So every now and then, you know, I'll pick a piece up and I'll bring it into the shade so I can check its color. But with this thing right now, we just basically gotta let it go to a nice black color. This is probably a pretty good quenching temperature for this steel. I typically would want that that more orangey cherry red color along the edge though. I just hope I don't get any deformations when I actually quench it. But yeah, so I got to do this at least 2 more times, if not 3 more times, and then we'll be able to quench and continue the grind. Alright, that was cycle number 3. So I'm running low on propane, so on this heat, I'm just going to go ahead and go for it, and we'll see how it goes. Here we go. Success. Okay, I'm about ready to call it for now. It's got a couple little spots left. There, and a few little guys on this side. Look at those guys. So, I'm pretty much out of time for today, but this is what we got coming along. I think it's gonna look pretty darn cool when it's done, but that's where we're at, and that's where we're gonna leave it for now because I'm out of time.